No Nation. Welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. The beginning of this conversation, as we wait for our special guest, Doug Rohan, to join in, is going to be the recruiting roller coaster that we are currently on. We talked about it a lot on this show. After the stumble out of the gates, a lot of conversations about some changes that are going to be needed to be made. Some things that you really didn't notice until you lose all these guys in the draft. You miss on a few portal guys. Well, in order for that to happen, and with all that conversation as loud as it is, especially from our own media, us included into that to a certain extent, it's going to get worse before it gets better at certain positions. If the public perception in the entire country is that a certain coach is a lame duck and he's out after the season, like guaranteed, it's going to be really hard for the staff as a whole to recruit that position. And when some of these positions that are people are calling for coaches, it happens to be a coordinator position and things like that, it can be really problematic, especially when you finally have built up these relationships after so long. We're going to talk about the commitments we've gotten, the decommitments, the new offers that have went out, all those different things starting right now with Jen and Deshawn. And of course, like I said, Rohan's going to join us. But the number one topic is we're going to start off on a positive. We already have Solomon Thomas and Peyton Joseph committed, who has been like something we've been really happy. We're real positive going into the season. You got 2 top 100 linemen. You lose out on a tackle to Georgia Tech that I never really believed is going to be a tackle. When they were recruiting him, I was like, as great as it would be to get a 5-star in Josh Petty, I could see him being another one of these blue chip tackles we get in here that ends up being a guard. I don't feel that way at all about Mario Nash. And he committed last night. Actually, it's at the tail end of me and James's show. So you get a kid out of Mississippi, kind of the redemption tour for Charles Cross. We've had some pretty good players out of the portal from the state of Mississippi here the last couple of years. And we'll get into that a little bit when we get into the dynamics of the whole program. But we'll start off with you guys' thoughts on landing Mario Nash and the implications of that for this class staying together.
Ladies first.
Oh, me first?
Yes.
Well, I think anytime you're having a rough day and you sit there and all of a sudden your phone, does the little bleep bleep, and then you see it's Hayes Fawcett and he says, hey, they got a 4-star tackle, right? I mean, that's a good night. That's a good moment. It sucks you lost like all of your good recruits before that happened, but I mean, I know there's some good ones still there, but I mean, we did lose some. So that was a nice, little pick me up, I guess, right? But again, I don't know. I just need to see these offensive linemen actually play when they're 4 stars being recruited. You know what I mean? Like, we would love to see it. I'd like to see it. So let's hope. Fingers crossed. Sounds good to me. I like it.
Okay. For me, I won't contradict anything that I've said in the past. I'm like, okay, we lose a receiver recruit, but we replace it with what is actually more dire need is offensive linemen. And I think that's where they need to put their sole focus on in recruiting anyway. The quickest way you can turn situation around is to get the trenches right on both sides of the ball, because that seems to be the biggest issues and the reason why we're struggling the most outside of the next most important or the most important position, which is quarterback. But I think it's a nice addition. It'd be one to watch because we know how tricky Mississippi can be, but Mississippi has historically been good to us. A lot of our greats have come from that state. So I would just say, continue to watch. I just, like you, Jen, I want to see the development going forward. If he signs, he's there, and I'm not being negative, just being positive, wherever we go with the staff, you want to see that development go. And in particular, that position coach is kind of holding things together. So I will give him applaud that, he's kind of holding things together while the house seems to be burning a little bit. He's trying to put out fires. So, I can't do nothing but say, hey, it's a good pickup.
Look, you touched on it, and I'm going to expound upon it. The single most important thing on this football team moving forward to be competitive next year and set a path towards the championship in 26 or 27 or whenever that time comes again is the offensive line. Literally, our issues that we are facing right now as we look in the season You know, people want to say it's just about the misses from the portal. You had such good classes in 2023, 2022, and look what happened in this one. And that's true. That is a big part of it. But another big part of it is we hated Jerry and Jones his first 2 years on campus. You know, it took time. People grew. We literally lost the best players from 2019 transfer class, 2020 transfer class, 21 transfer class, 22 transfer class, and 23 transfer class all in one go in this portal. But what we reported on, what the beat reported on, what the coaches were saying about the biggest, strongest, fastest team they've had was that these high school guys had developed. You've got 13,000 snaps coming back on the offensive line. Everybody got their surgery. They're supposed to be healthy. Well, all that is going out the way. We're starting to see young guys like Andre Otto, Jalen Early step into some roles. You hope they can get better. And you've seen them be better at certain things we're still not seeing out of these senior guys. So to have 2 top 100 interior guys that you really believe in, and you can get that first tackle on the board, and they're starting to open it up. We've seen 2 or 3 guys, I don't have the names right offhand, but that have decommitted. I spoke about the reason that, okay, well, people are upset about Daniel Pierre-Louis and the offer. Well, he was the highest rated tackle that wasn't committed. But now we're seeing some of those people above him decommit. Florida State get in there. Whether people believe it or not, they're excited about these offers. You know, recruiting is a little bit different, and you know, the actual what's what of what goes under the hood when these coaches pick up the phone and call guys, you don't realize it. You've seen it in years where, you know, Jaden Woodby doesn't get an FSU offer till a couple weeks before signing day, and he signs. Those things can happen if the resources are put there and the focus is put there. But again, it's a tightrope. I don't want to get into the coaching changes. We'll get that a little bit later. But you you want to get rid of Alex Atkins? You know, be careful what you wish for, because you know, you may want to push that can down the road, because the most important thing for this program is getting high school guys in this class. And I've got a couple of different ideas, and I know you all do as well, of how we can do that. Before we move on to the wide receivers, and I'll give y'all another chance if y'all want to continue on offensive line as well. But let's go ahead and do the introductions now that we've got people hooked and we can get into all this stuff. Of course, to my right, my left, on the right of the screen, Jen Santee, aka at Jen Santee 1890 on Twitter. She's at Jen Santino on Instagram. We're going to get together and maybe start streaming to her channel over there to reach her audience. There, we've got Deshawn Adams, 18, as always, our other co-host. Man, working, I can't even keep track. Has it been like 6 months? Like, you know, just killing it. He's been a great addition. So we really appreciate him. He's got his YouTube channel. We'll definitely plug later, as well as his Twitter at Deshawn Adams 18. Go follow him. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the attorney at law, Doug Rohan. He's at Rohan Law PC on pretty much everywhere. I think he's got a YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber to that, go check that out. But thanks for joining us, man. We're talking recruiting a little bit. We were just celebrating the commitment of Mario Nash and what that means for this class, and you know, the kind of motivation to figure out how to keep Alex Atkins and maybe work with this thing and you know, take a chill pill, because this offensive line, this recruiting class is giant. Like, it's really important with what we've got going out the door. Looks like he'll be back in a minute. He's got something going on, but y'all want to continue on the offensive line conversation, or we can go to wide receiver, whichever we all want to do.
Well, I wouldn't. The only thing I add left with, as I've already stated about the offensive line, is to continue to throw offers out there, really evaluate. And it seems to have been, you know, what we're looking at now, hindsight's 2020. Evaluation is one of the biggest question marks that we have overall for the staff. But in this particular area, I think evaluation needs to be key. Start looking for not just guys that are. I mean, at this point, we're playing offense instead of defense. You know, we're not trying to defend. We're trying to defend what we have, but now we're trying to play the flip game, and that can be a little tricky now, especially with the way the NIL and the incoming rules are changing. You know, prospects are more likely going to stay committed with what's coming down the road, and it'd be a little harder to flip. I'd say their evaluation. They need to reevaluate how they're looking at their offensive line prospects. You know, projection on how long should it take this prospect to develop. If I'm developing them, how long should it take, or will it take? You know, it seems that 3 years. It takes 3 years for us to get a guy on the field, and at max, the best programs is taken for them on average maybe 2, if not 1. You know, but that special breed offensive lineman is typically 1. but at the max, in my opinion, it shouldn't take no more than 2. If you're redshirting them as a freshman, they should see the field no later than either their redshirt sophomore or junior year, which is roughly 3, but I would say 2, sophomore year. That's just my opinion. So
Almost like
that's
all these guys. My bad. Keep going. I thought you stopped.
No, I did. I was letting you go.
Yeah, I was just expounding on what you said. It's almost like these guys coming back for their redshirt senior years has stunted the growth of the rest of the line and maybe made these guys comfortable to go after different positions and things in previous classes. We talked about it last year. Like, we knew this was coming, this focus on the offensive line, but looking back now, maybe it should have been a year earlier. So I totally agree with all that. But welcome in again. Like, you're posted up on a couch. You look comfortable as hell. What's up, man?
Hanging out on my front porch, just enjoying the fall evening. Had to put the battles in quarter zip up on because it's so chilly out.
All
Love
right,
it, man. Rickle Tungate has gifted 5 FSU football Renegade Report memberships, so we really appreciate that. We'll try to do more and more members only stuff. It's kind of hard to with this season. It's kind of hard to put paid material behind a paywall and stuff. It's so painful to have to, I know, for y'all to have to endorse some of these conversations. We have big plans to do all kind of special stuff this year, but I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe a members only thing where I just watch college football tomorrow with the gang or something. We'll see. But again, thank you. That puts us to, I think we're back at about 40 members. We've got 35 people who have been with us pretty much for 8 months now. But we can move on to the wide receivers and get our thoughts around that. I'm not going to harp. I'm not even going to say his name. Y'all can say his name or whatever. But the wide receiver coach is pretty much cooked at this point. The one thing that was to his name, like kind of his reputation, was, he's not going to get A.J. Brown and maybe Jeremiah Smith to come in and be pass catchers year one. But this dude are assignment sound. They cut off their routes when they're supposed to. They block, and they block their ass off. And it's like, and that's a whole nother conversation that's saved for the middle of the show, why we keep running so many of these different quick games. But wide receiver is not the same as offensive line. Mike Norvell is obviously getting extremely connected to the C.J. Wiley recruitment to try and hold that one together. He landed in Gainesville, Georgia on the baseball field in a chopper just minutes before we started this show. C.J. Wiley is all decked out in FSU gear. So first thoughts, we can start with Doug on the 2 decommitments. Malik Clark, which one that we talked about was just a shock when we ever got him. It was going to be hard to keep him from South Carolina. But then Daylon McCutcheon, you went from having 3 top 100 type receivers to 1 who's the best in the bunch. But again, thoughts, Doug, before I keep rambling.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to win on the field. And people are buying into what Mike is selling. And right now, what Mike is selling is ass, and it's terrible. Look, I'm one of the ones who's heartbroken over this, because what I thought we had in Mike Norvell was at least a technical genius. Maybe he's not everybody's cup of tea. I know what that's like. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm a goofy mofo, and some people like that. Some people don't. Some people respond. Some people don't. Some people are just going to be in this for the bag. And some people are going to want to be coached up by somebody that wants to think and be cerebral, wants to be the nerd. And when our nerd coach that was recruited by Alabama and lured away by Alabama can't figure out a way to coach to the strengths of these teams, to scheme over the deficiencies, that's where I'm just befuddled. I'm confused. I'm heartbroken. There should have been a way to out scheme Georgia Tech in the second half. There should have been a way to realize that we have problems for Boston College. Let's figure out how to fix it. There should have been halftime adjustments in Memphis to make sure that we could score more than 2 touchdowns. That's where I don't understand where the breakdown is. And legitimately, like, I just want to give Mike a hug and say, go talk to a counselor. Go talk to a professional that's not going to judge you. Pour your heart out and talk about, how much you cared about work. Don't worry about the results, because the results will take care of themselves. And you got your heart broken by the committee. But Now rally, motherfucker, because this is bad. This is how do you get to where this is a worse rushing attack than Willie Taggart's incompetence. And it's not incompetence. Now we have a bigger problem, and that's pride, that's selfishness, that's loyalty to a fault. As a business owner, I want to be liked by my employees. But if somebody's not doing their job, I don't care if a bad employee likes me. I need the good employees to like me. And I need the people that I'm about to bring on board to say, okay, well, if I don't do a good enough job, my ass is on the line and I'm going to lose it. That's what happens when you keep incompetent coaches on the payroll. That's what happens when you promote incompetent linebackers coaches that we've been saying for 2 years have been incompetent. You can't give titles to people that don't deserve it. You have to give consequences. It's like being a parent. A good parent is not their kid's best friend. A good parent disciplines, a good parent coaches up, a good parent gives opportunities, and failing to do so, you're setting your children up for failure. Coach Mike Norvell is setting his assistants up for failure, and now he has to try to recruit new talent from a position of weakness as opposed to having done it with a 13-0 record and saying, look, I know you guys did well. I know you got us here, but there's a better guy out there. And that's a shitty way to think as a business owner. I want my employees to know that if they do what I expect of them, I will be loyal, absolutely. But when I can look at the PFF grades and objectively determine that you're falling short and that your players are falling short, there's got to be consequences.
You nailed it. I think obviously the snub had him down. You have the hope. I think the just absolute you kicked my puppy look on his face, and the kind of is, when you go watch these games back. I know it's tough FSU fans to watch him back, but when he calls a play for a touchdown and it's like just some 2 or 3 players on the play just do some things that are nuts. Yeah, and that all falls on the assistant coaches that he put his trust in. And, I have my gripes about his play calling as well that we'll get to. But the big thing, and me and James talked about it last night, it's like, how do you fire somebody after 13-0? But the problem in college football that's so different than anything else, high school recruiting and, evaluation, all that, that's 50 to 75% of the whole thing. So, just because at linebacker you coached up 2 guys by their redshirt senior years where they're competent, like there's nobody, like you didn't have anybody ready to come behind it. And yeah, that's the problem. And unlike Jimbo Fisher in 2017, he should have the backing to go out there and make those choices. So
I'm going to make a selfless plug here for lawyers. It is very easy to settle a case for $1 million and be patting yourself on the back, talking about, I did such an awesome job. I got $1 million on this case. But you're shit if that was a $10 million case. If you settle a $10 million case for $1 million, you're still a crappy attorney. Mm-hmm. They coached a 13-0 team with 10 NFL draft picks and 2 undrafted free agents. Yeah. Of course, I could have coached those linebackers to an undefeated season. Mm-hmm. You're not doing anything special. Coach up those 3 stars, find those diamond in the rough evaluations, and now you're showing what you can do. And that's what we did post-COVID. Mm-hmm. But to then turn around and take a team with 11, 12 NFL players on it, mm-hmm, and coach them to an undefeated season, so freaking what? That's not a testament to your greatness. That's a testament to your average capacity, which I would expect any coach in America to have been able to do. Mm-hmm. So yes, I really appreciate what you've done for this program. Let's go get you an elevated spot in another program. But now I've got this guy from UNLV that's a head coach that wants to be a position coach here.
Well, we'll just naturally transition to that. We'll make Deshawn salivate for a minute. Jen doesn't have a chance to speak for a minute, but we can go right into that.
I'm going to let Deshawn go because I feel like he's going to bring some heat here.
No, Doug is preaching everything you said, and I'll put it in just layman's terms. My motto is this: I'm about the fucking logo. I don't care who it is. This program is looking at something it hasn't seen before most of our lifetime, 50 years of football. We watched it grow. We've had up down times, we've had good times, but to see where we're at this moment in this season is not acceptable from any coach, even the head man. Everyone gets the side eye. But as you said, my hashtag, and I put it out there, go to tally. Everything, it fits like a glove, and I'm going to continue to push that, and I hope that it comes true. Everything about that particular assistant coach, where he has so many ties to Mike. His system fits the personnel we have now. It would be a seamless transition as far as coming on the field and being able to teach. I've been watching his coaching tapes, all of that. But just to get on to what you said, Doug, and tie into what I've already said, is the expectation of consistency. Mike needs to understand that you can't get away with 13 and 0, 10 and 3. That's that should be the norm here. This is Florida State. This isn't Florida Tech. That's the norm. You don't just say, okay, I can take a 7-6 year or a 5-7 year. That's not acceptable. We're looking at 5 years of 3 of the 5 years he's been here has been losing seasons. You had 2 winning seasons. That doesn't, all the little grace you got yourself, because we were asking questions coming into the 2022 season. We started to ask questions, and then, okay, he gave us 2 good seasons. We need consistency. It's about consistency for me. And that's the expectation, I think, as the head coach here at Florida State. He has to understand that.
And let me tell you, one of the undercurrents in all of this is we're a blocked missed point away from LSU winning that game.
Exactly.
We're a blocked field goal from a walk-on used car salesman at Clemson from losing that game last year, not being undefeated. It's not like we've been crushing people. It's not like we've been blowing people out. He needs to be appreciative of those 10-win seasons, knowing it's not good enough.
Exactly.
We wanted the retribution from the college football snub to be Darth Norvell. So we came out in Ireland, we crammed the ball down Georgia Tech's throat and went for 2. And I was losing my mind. I was like, yes, this is it. We're finally going to win the next 5 games by 35 plus points.
Yes.
And then the defense came out.
And when our quarterback airmails an out route and hits the bricks of the soccer stadium, let me tell you, the bricks at Doak are very close to the sidelines. That first row of seats in a soccer stadium is way off the sidelines.
Yes.
That should have been the red flag where Mike needed to take a step back and say, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, I think it's easy to blame, I know the quarterback position, awful, right? It's been awful. Supposedly, I don't even know if it's true, DJ was hurt before the finger. I don't know. Nobody's ever said that because they don't tell us anything. So how are we supposed to know for true other than Twitter rumors? So who knows? Who freaking knows for sure? But for me, I think even in the Georgia Tech game, I think that team could have built off something. I don't know what happened after the Georgia Tech game, because I'm sorry, but if that had gone to overtime, I think Florida State would have won that game. I really do. They had the momentum at that. They finally decided to throw over the middle to Malik Benson, and that was working. So I don't know what happened after that game. Was it the staying behind to, parade around and show your whatever? I don't know. Should they have just come straight home? Maybe. And I get what people say. Oh, they wanted to be in Ireland. They wanted to tour. Well, now we're at 1-5.
Yeah.
This is gross. It's disgusting. And then I said, after that Georgia Tech game, I don't know how you beat Boston College if you're going to stay and tour for a couple days. Because that game came right back up, didn't it?
Yep.
It was right there.
Yes, it did. You're right.
How is this the strategy? I don't give a shit if they've never been to Ireland before. Neither have I. Okay? But the rest of us are giving our hard-earned money monthly to watch bullshit. Like embarrassing bullshit. Embarrassing bullshit.
It's unforgivable.
Yeah.
Like, not even fun, not laughing. I mean, now we probably laugh because we're used to it now, you know. But again, I'm so sorry. But in the Memphis game, somebody brought that up. How do you not put in Brock in the Memphis game? That was the
Second half.
perfect point.
Second half.
Perfect point.
Should have been all his.
You saw that kid come out there and sling that thing and act and run it. And he had a great attitude about it. People were, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but even in the Clemson game, as much as I wanted to divert my eyes, they were excited on the field. I saw emotion that I haven't seen in a long time. Not really from the defense, but that's fine. But I just, and again, somebody's got to give me somebody on the defense that gets these kids fired up. What is going on? We used to have, you had assistant coaches that were out there that looked scarier than the players. What's going on here? You have nobody.
Yeah.
Minus
The
Ernie
leaders.
Sims. That's it.
The leaders on the team are Brock Glenn and Juice Cryer. And that's an indictment on the rest of the team.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's not a good thing.
No,
it's not.
and I don't know what these coaches were seeing in practice with these kids. Talk about, oh, look at this defense. This defense sucks. And I know that there are some good plays, and we've seen some good moments. But do you guys, when the defense comes on the field, are you like, yeah, we're going to stop them this time? No. You're sitting here doing this. Fuck. And then it's third.
Please
long.
let them throw an incompletion. Please let their quarterback throw an incompletion.
And that's all you're going to get. That's how lucky you might get a pass breakup or somebody stumbles over someone else and falls into someone to stop them. But that's really all you're getting. Like, I mean, I guess we're getting a couple sacks here and there, but this is Florida State. That defense is supposed to be just sick. It's supposed to make people sick to watch them hit people. You know what I mean? It's supposed to make you, feel, I don't know. I'm sorry. I like when the kid hit I know this is going to be mean. When he had to pick up what's his name's teeth off the field and said, here you go. That's fun. That's what we want. I don't understand this. Those kids would probably sit there and go, oh, I don't want to hit you that hard. I've never seen anything like the hits that we're seeing. They whiff on, and again, with the offensive line, I know, it's the trenches. I get it, guys. But the defense, to me, we're already out on the offense. When the offense comes out, at least with Brock now, we have something to look forward to. But with the defense, I don't really look forward to it. I don't.
I think that goes into what I mentioned about reevaluating in philosophy. I think it's a complete reset that needs to happen within the organization of the program as a whole, from how they evaluate their prospects to how they develop their prospects to even the schematics. We have to question every coach, every analyst, every the nutrition, the strength and conditioning, all of that is in question. And it's actually something that I said, we ignored a lot of the signs because we were winning the last 2 years. But even when we had all of our players, some of these things reared their head during those games. We lose in 22, we lose 3 straight with the same mistakes that we're seeing now, And then last year, we had to struggle through a few games. We struggled through a few games. We did go undefeated, but like you said, to be honest, there was only a few games where we actually looked consistently dominant. Now, injuries can play a part of that, but it's also scheme and development. And one of my biggest questions and one of my biggest comments is this: everyone at this point is up for evaluation. That's going from the head man down to the strength and conditioning. Because I said it in a space yesterday, and excuse my language, what we saw from the offensive line against Clemson was not fucking technique. That was simple push. That's strength and conditioning. 335-pound linemen don't get moved around like that. There were times where they held up, but it's been so inconsistent at that position for so long. Even dating back to Jimbo's latter years. So we have to look, is there an organizational problem with the administration as far as nutrition, period, at FSU? I'm just going to bring it up. I mean, overall, do we need to revamp how they do things overall, even before Mike and that staff even came in? Because we've had issues at that in the trenches for a minute. Consistency in it. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where I'm at with it. I'm evaluating everyone.
Yeah, and I think the other problem here is that when you look at it, the ACC sucks. And we've lost all these games to people who suck, who are terrible. How
This
are
is
you
the
going
bottom
to...
half of the ACC.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're the worst
bottom
teams
half.
in the ACC. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Nobody is going to tell me Boston College, Georgia Tech, or anybody's going to compete for anything. You know, I guess you lost to Clemson. Sure, maybe they will. I don't buy that either. I didn't see... I mean, look, Clemson beat Florida State by what? How many?
It was 29 to what? Was it 29? 13?
29, 13.
I mean, like, how did you even let them score 13? I mean, I don't know. But again, I'm not, Navy destroyed Memphis. Like, these are bad teams that they're losing, and they're not just losing to them. SMU almost lost to suck-ass Nevada. SMU is going to lose some other fucking games. You know it, I know it, everybody else knows it. These are not great teams. They're not. The luckiest thing for SMU is their schedule is even shittier than Miami's. So I think that's the lucky part on their schedule. They don't have anybody else to play this year. Nobody plays SMU. So I think that's the only thing you have is, I mean, I think their only harder games is other sucky ACC teams. So again, this is a bad football team, no matter which way you look at it. Any improvement you have, fine. Who are you going to beat? Because I see maybe like who do we see on the schedule? Maybe
Charleston
Duke?
Southern. Charleston Southern's a win.
Charleston Southern.
But no, legitimately, to your point, Jen, we're not an average team. We're not a below average team. We are in the bottom 10, if not the bottom 5.
Yeah.
And we went from thinking we were going to compete for the ACC championship and a playoff spot to being 1-5, wondering which games are winnable, not which games are wins. Do we have winnable games? That's reprehensible.
When one of your most dependent upon defensive players is basically on vacation in the Bahamas right now, that's the mindset that you have. We're 1-5, and he's on a flight to Turks and Caicos or something, wasn't it? I
sent it to you. I sent you his Instagram. I sure did. Yeah, he sure is.
So that you got to understand, that's the locker room mindset right now. It doesn't mean you can't go on a vacation. I understand that people's personal life have a good time. You may need a little break, but we're 1-5, and you're part of the reason we're 1-5. But hey, take your money and fly away.
And most of us work really hard for that money we donate too. By the way, I'm just saying. That's
All right. Are we ready to move on? Does everybody feel better? Like, I get it. This is a tough year. I just, it sucks. I just try to do our best to try to wiggle our way through it. We could have that conversation today, tomorrow, yesterday. We've had it probably 300 times. All that stuff is true, but we'll try to narrow in kind of on what you can do to fix it. Y'all talked about UNLV. That's where we started with the go-go offense. The offensive line has not been up to par. The biggest issue is the high school guys. Those 2020 through 2022 recruiting classes, these 13,000 snaps, it's dog shit. That's why Mike Norvell's face looks crazy, because he's turning on the tape of guys that are supposed to make blocks and they're not doing them. You got your tight end that you invested in, and your tight end coach he's going to be your number one guy. That's what he told you, and he's got bricks for hands. You finally are in a game at half, and you come out and it's a pick six first play because he hit the fucker in his hand. All that's true. And I get it, and it sucks, but I do think there is a path forward. I think as bad as all this shit sucks, and it's no good, it can't ever happen again, I think there is a way to go. If you bring him in, you give him play calling duties, you slide Alex Atkins to a running game coordinator and offensive line coach, and that's just all he focuses on. You can keep this thing together. That's my opinion. I think the wide receiver coach, you have to make a change there. I'm not sure what the call is on Thompson for the fact of he just did bring in 2 of the best tight ends in the country, and they're immediately getting out there. But I could take him or leave him. I think that tight end spot is so important to get a plus recruiter in. I think as upset as we are about quarterback, Tony Tokar's like, I think he nailed both his quarterbacks the first 2 years. I think Brock is on the up and up. And I think all the bullshit about Luke supposedly wanting to transfer and that Mike Norvell isn't talking up Brock is because he's worried about Luke transferring and then motherfucking him, in a hypothetical situation where him and his dad are pressuring him to get out of town. He didn't start it till he was a junior in high school. Okay. A junior in high school for his own dad. Okay. The true freshman, he's going to be able to redshirt. We're going to be okay there. Anybody that knows John or talked to him, that isn't something that's in his family kind of idea or what his roadmap is to be a professional at all. I don't believe. I could be wrong there, but I think Tokars, Atkins are kind of the only two guys on the offense that are safe. And I want to go into the defense a little bit and then get to the court case so we can start it, Jen, and go back around on your thoughts on what I just said and the solutions possibly going forward.
For me, was it for me? Did you say me? Okay, I thought so. I just was making sure I wasn't hearing things because I do that sometimes. No, Brock is not. If Luke was ready to play, Luke would be playing over Brock Glenn. Let's be for real here. So I don't think Luke is wanting to transfer and that Mike is in some secret thing where he's not talking up Brock Glenn to keep Luke from transferring. I think Luke will probably start next year. I also think Brock Glenn won't transfer next year. So there you go. That's what I think.
You're on mute, George.
Me and Doug are both muted. I think if you were trying to talk, you're muted, Doug.
I'm not.
There you go.
My wife earlier.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Deshawn.
All right. On the Brock situation and Luke situation, I put it this way. You let Brock ride out the rest of the season, and then you have an open competition between he and Trevor Jackson, and Tramel comes in, and they all have an open competition and let the best man. You create and you breed an atmosphere of competitiveness. You let them earn, the best man win, and then it is what it is after that. I mean, I don't believe none of those rumors about the whole Luke situation, because understanding, like you said, George, he's only been playing quarterback basically 2 seasons. This is actually his 3rd season playing quarterback at the position, so it's a lot to learn. He didn't maximize learning it at the high school level. He's learning a whole new thing now at the college level. So you shouldn't be in a hurry to rush him out there. He's not that generational border 5-star that tends to come out every now and then. He's a developmental guy that will fit your system and give him time to get better. You got something with Brock. Let's see where it goes, and then next year we're going into the spring open competition.
As much as football has changed, one of the important hallmarks is that the offenses are getting more complex.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as Jameis was, he redshirted his first year.
Yes.
And I think every recruit at the quarterback position needs to be given an expectation. You're going to redshirt your first year. You need to learn the terminology. You need to learn the language. You need to learn how to read a defense. You're going to sit and film study. Don't even think about first year playing. Arch Manning didn't play his first year.
Mm-hmm.
As good as you are, you're sitting for your first year. Second year, we're going to open it up. And Luke and Brock are going to go at it. And Trevor Jackson's going to go at it.
Mm-hmm.
And Tramel Jones is going to come in, and we're going to say he has a chance, but he's going to be redshirted.
Mm-hmm.
So it really comes down to Luke and Brock next year. As much as I got excited about Trevor Jackson earlier this season for his athleticism, I've done some additional digging. I've done some additional research, and he'll be a fun, gimmicky person to have in case of injuries. Mm-hmm. But he's not going to be our QB1 anytime soon. If he's our QB1, a lot of things have gone really wrong. So all that to say, the quarterback position and Tony Tokar's, I think, to go back to circle back about coaches, I think that is a stable platform that we can build off of. I think Mike Norvell is priced out of leaving, and frankly, he has been given some leeway because of what he's done 2 out of the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to push for his seat this year. I'm definitely not going to push for his seat next year. I'm going to give him an opportunity to see what he can do next year. But you turn around with a 3 or 4 win season next year, and we do have a problem.
Oh no, I'll be pushing.
And that creates the reality.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to wake up in Paris on January 1st, 2027, you have to make plans to get to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, with our recruiting and with our transfer portal, we have to seriously consider what are the trenches going to look like next year. Because if you don't want a 4-win season, there's nobody on this current roster, and there definitely won't be any freshmen that we are bringing in the recruiting class that are going to get us beyond a 4-win season.
Nope.
So that's why you need to look at Coach Norvell staying. I think Alex Atkins staying. I think Patrick Surtain, absolutely. Tony Tokars. That's it.
That's it. I agree with
Those are the 4 that I would say have earned. And Papuchis, we did block 3 kicks. Clemson could have beat our brains in by at least 21 more points, if not 9 more points. So I'm willing to give Papuchis another year on that. But those are the 4 or 5 that stay, and everybody else needs to go, and we need to have a fresh start.
I'll throw Yak in there too, in my opinion. I think he's done well at the running back position. Go ahead.
19 yards on 16 carries. I know it's the line.
Yes.
Cam Davis is supposed to. He had 1 rugby scrum. He had 1 rugby scrum where he got 9 yards.
Yeah.
That was the second largest rushing play of the Clemson game.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook did better with a terrible line.
You're right. You're right in that point. And I understand what you're saying. If you want to upgrade the recruiting, that'd be another position where say we can get a better recruiter here than what we have. He's solid, but we can probably get an elite level recruiter. So I would stash one there as well as the tight end position, tight end coach. So yes, I can agree with you there.
Yeah, I think I agree with all that. My issue with Yak is I lean more towards Deshawn's things. I don't know how much rope he's given or decision making he's given in that actual coordination of the run game. But whoever the brain trust is between Mike Norvell and Yak, I disagree with you a little bit. I'm excited about Cam Davis, but you want to talk about the reasons you can't bring the youngins in until they're ready? You've got a senior running back who you made the focal point of your offense in the ACC championship game, dominated Louisville with all these rushing yards with the same exact offensive line out of a Wildcat with no quarterback on the field. So lose me with the Jordan Travis shit when he's not even on the field. So for whatever reason, they refuse to use this guy as the running back. And Cam Davis, as good as he is, he's going to have that rugby scrum, but he's going to have a play that isn't so great. And for whatever reason, that's who the first down carries go to. Your best driver tonight, they finally handed it to Toafili on first down. He broke through for 12 yards, and you drove down the field and got a touchdown. He's averaging 4.8 yards per carry on the year. And when you're 6 games in, that's a legitimate number. That's what he does. He only got 10 carries in the Clemson game, and they're so sporadically spread out. If you're only going to carry it 22 times, then why is 5 freaking running backs on the goddamn stat sheet? Why can't one guy get 18 and maybe Cam get 4? Like, it's just, they're setting them up for failure.
Why haven't we run the Wildcat a single time?
Maybe 1 second. They want to say that it's because we can't run, they can't run block and all this, but when you look at the EPAs, 40% of what you're running is quick game to the outside, and it's 10 points below the rushing attack. But you're throwing these passes out there. You have, 1 positive quick game all night to Hakeem Williams, 2 almost pick sixes, all these negative plays. Your wide receivers can't block. Your offensive line can block half the time. Anyways, I had to get that rant off, but by all means, go ahead.
But you're right.
So
you're
to
right.
your point, George, why haven't we run the Wildcat this season?
I have no fucking idea.
No question.
Look, I have played EA Sports college football. That's the extent of my experience. Wildcat and Brock pulling it. I literally texted out in the middle of the Clemson game while I was in the stadium, pull the damn ball, Brock. Just once. Just one. Every time he's got 20 yards up the sideline. Who is telling whom don't pull the ball? Who
I think
is
that was
saying
a straight
don't
call.
run
That's
the
what Wayne
Wildcat?
said. I don't think it was an option, which is The only thing I can guess is because it's his first opportunity. They were trying to simplify that one part, but
Yeah.
I think absolutely, if you don't see him pulling that against Duke and it wasn't a setup, then yeah, that's
There were at
you got to
least
do it.
6
Because
zone reads. At
I mean,
least
one of
6
I
and
got hard when
zone
he
reads.
took off and ran for that fourth
Yeah.
down conversion. Just to tell you right now, okay?
I mean, but one of the biggest and most egregious plays from the Clemson game, it was 3rd and 2, and they went empty. That was ridiculous. And that's what the point is. Just like the SMU game when they ran the quarterback power, which we discussed. Why didn't you utilize DJ again? He was hurt, or put a fullback in there. There was no fullback, no power game like that, no DJ under center. And when I meant DJ, put him in at fullback, I meant Lundy. At that time, when we were on the goal line, we didn't. There's no physicality to the game
That's
that
what's
we play.
driving
And
me
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. But both of you guys are right though. It's just more the question to the play calling and, like you said, the run game coordinating and things like that. It's baffling, man, and it's head scratching what we're
It's
seeing.
baffling. It's head scratching. It's terrible. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
this was a blind spot. This was
Yes.
something we all talked about it. They should have made the hindsight. They should have made the changes. But I'll point out again, as I have several times, like also to be repetitive on my end, this is his first 5th year at a program. He's gotten us there. He got Memphis there, and then he came here. So they figured it out. It's time to fix it. But I do think all the pieces are there, just like in 2021, to grab and go hold on to. The tight ends, the young offensive linemen. The reason people in the chat asking why on the hell with all these issues would you keep Alex Atkins? It's to carve out a smaller role and keep this offensive line class together, because you have to have something. I'm going to back out and fix my mic, and y'all go ahead and take over.
Okay.
So I
go
have
ahead, Jen.
one quick thing. Does anybody think that maybe they didn't allow Brock to pull it because they're worried about another injury? Like, the season's going so bad.
Yeah.
With what happened to Jordan Travis, is this like PTSD? Is this PTSD?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Well,
I
it's a
really-
possible situation though, Jen.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, if he goes down with DJ out, you're putting a true freshman, regardless if it's Luke or if it's Trevor. You're putting a true freshman in at that point, unless you want to put a walk on it.
Right.
But either way, you're putting even less experience. So
And
I
you've
can
won
see that's the
one
possibility of why they
You're
didn't pull.
under all this pressure.
Yeah.
You've won one game. This is bad. It's versus Clemson. All these things. You're not going to win this game. I mean, I didn't think so. I don't know. So I sit here and I go, are they playing scared now? Are they playing scared now? I mean, think about it. The trauma from Jordan Travis getting hurt. Is this what this is? And the snub and all the things, and you can't get your mind wrapped around it to just play the fucking game. Play the fucking game.
Love it. What a fiery conversation. We're just forced to move on. If we still have time, we can come back and talk more about the defensive coaches. But we've got Doug on here to talk about the law case. And I'll go ahead and lay it out while we wait for him to come back. Florida State, all over the place against the ACC in North Carolina. You're in the appellate courts there. You've got part of this case in the appellate courts in Florida. You've got a guy, the Judge Bledsoe, retiring in the case. You've got all this stuff going on. And the one part of the case that was moving forward in Leon County, the ACC, trying to get that snubbed, trying to get that stopped as well. To know, how do you forget a phrase mid-phrase?
Nope.
That's when you know you have ADHD. To no avail. Lord have mercy. But so we were talking about it off air. Us three don't have that much knowledge on it or how it moves forward, like the litigation that happened today. But I do have questions on how it matters moving forward and how it relates to February 1st and things of that nature. But what happened today, and what are the instant ramifications, I guess, of kind of what can happen in the proceedings today?
So today's hearing was in Florida court of Judge Cooper. So this is the trial court, not the appellate court. And there was a motion by the ACC to stay the proceedings while they're going through the appellate process. It's very interesting juxtaposition of the North Carolina and Florida cases, again, because In North Carolina, once you appeal an issue that's related to the case, it's really an automatic stay. The case just stops waiting for the Court of Appeals to render their decision. Well, what happens is there are several issues that can come up during a trial that you can appeal while the trial is going on. One of the issues, for instance, here is jurisdiction. The ACC is arguing that the case shouldn't even be in Florida, whereas Florida State's arguing if the ACC really felt that way, they could have filed suit in Florida instead of filing suit in North Carolina. And then we don't have the issue of two different states fighting over who's going to be responsible for this litigation. So by having a foundational issue, a lot of people think of appeals. Oh, if I lose the case, I'm going to go up on appeal and I'm going to win. Well, you don't want to necessarily run through the entire case, the entire litigation, and wait until the end to appeal. So there are issues you might take up on appeal during the case. There are some things you don't. If somebody objects to a piece of evidence that the judge allows into the trial, you don't stop the trial to appeal this one piece of evidence that's been allowed in. But jurisdiction is one of those final judgments, those final issues that when the judge rules on it, you can appeal that issue. So in Florida, since we don't have an automatic stay of the proceedings, you have to ask the judge to say, look, judge, while we're figuring this issue out, we don't think we should waste our time moving the case forward. Well, Judge Cooper has been very proactive on the FSU side saying, no, we're going to keep on going. This case is going to keep moving forward. So this is actually the second appeal from the second ruling on jurisdiction that Judge Cooper has denied the ACC's request to pause the Florida litigation. So what it means in real life is the Florida case, even while there are appeals pending, is going to continue moving forward. Now, it still continues moving forward at a glacial pace. There's still nothing that's going to happen really practically this year, but discovery continues, depositions can start being scheduled, those types of things can move forward. We have the first appeal that was heard last month. That likely is going to be an order in January. We have this case that today was likely going to be appealed by the ACC right away. That's an order that's going to come out in February or March. And in the meantime, you have the case continuing to go in the trial court at Florida's court level, so that we will start talking about discovery, production of documents, and things like that. We're not going to get a jury trial. That's going to take the end of 2025 before we get to that point, which then again raises the issue of, will this case be settled sometime in January of 2025, which is kind of what I have been thinking since the beginning.
Now, and that's where my first question will be, and then there's a couple in the chats as well. But like, to me, I don't see any, like, at this point, I find it very hard to believe that they would settle before that date at this point, for a couple of different reasons. I mean, we're almost in November, so you're talking about 2.5 months before this date is here, not, a little over. And I thought maybe, if anything, that's the one relevant thing. Just the fact that they could keep it going and the case is still going to be active. Like, how is ESPN and FSU and Clemson and the rest of these teams, how are they going to get together? We talked about the option of could they possibly extend it again, but like, man, that's opened up all new kind of loose lawsuits for more teams than just FSU, Clemson. If you're hamstringing somebody like a Wake Forest, even I know they probably wouldn't file suit, they're all ACC, but what the hell are they going to do if this crumbles? Where are they going to go? Why didn't you give FSU the money? Well, you voted against it. All these things come up. There's going to be a lot of arguing and meetings and things. And the other thing is the Big 12 number. Like, it's out there now, buddy. They are not doing numbers. Outside of Colorado, it's a nightmare over there. They're not even on the scoreboard. You're talking about, like we talked about, 300 to 500,000 views for all these guys that we're talking big in the offseason. When you don't have Texas and Oklahoma on the schedule, it's a giant drop-off. It's exponential. And, I mean, Big 12 football is about non-existent outside of the people we follow on Twitter and we see them talking. Like, it's rough. Those numbers, FSU, Clemson, and Miami, are down per se for them, but they still all got 12 million views apiece. And FSU, as bad as we've been, I think it probably will change this week. Like Miami's going to overtake us and Clemson, I think, possibly pass us. But at this point, we've been 5 times on ESPN or ACC, and we've got 12 million views. You know, you could add up, I think, I don't want to lie, but probably like 2/3 of the Big 12 and add it together, and they don't have that. So it's like 5 games together, and they're under a minute. So how in the hell would ESPN ever extend this thing on the current deal? It's like almost even with FSU and Clemson, it becomes sketchy at this point for ESPN to continue it. And is the ACC and the rest of these teams willing to vote to give whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be ESPN or FSU, Clemson, and Miami get this much extra. It can be year by year based on the ratings, you know, take it a year out,
Miami better
3-year
win a
average, whatever the
championship
case
before they
may
get any
be.
extra.
Well, you know, that's a fun troll, but you got to talk dollars and cents. And that's, you know, what we're talking here. Like, I just call me crazy. I don't see a path for ESPN to extend. I really don't. Like, I don't see how it's possible. And I know that's homerish, but what's the path? Somebody sell me a path for the ACC to stay together under this. I don't see it.
Not without more money from ESPN. And that's the big game changer that was floated in the last offer of settlement, the last suggestion that there might be a way. Florida State talked in the 2022 meeting about changing the pie to unequal revenue sharing, and everybody shot it down.
Mm-hmm.
So now what ESPN hopefully is thinking is, I can either pay Clemson and Florida State $80 million in the SEC. I can lose them to the Big Ten, or I can pay $20 million more into a pot each, $40 million, $50 million total, in a way that the ACC then can be responsible for apportioning that money to their conference members based on viewership. So from ESPN's perspective, it's a math problem, and they've got to just do whatever they can to make it as affordable as possible. If they don't have an extra 50 million, which they just lost out on the DirecTV negotiations, then they might not be able to put any more money into the agreement. So ESPN's perspective might be, let's not renew the contract and let's risk losing FSU, but we can't afford to do more than we're already doing because these contracts have already gotten so outrageous.
I mean, however much more the ACC is or the SEC is in the ACC, now that they've added these new teams, I'm not going to put them saying equal with FSU and Clemson. FSU might argue top 5 when they're right, whatever, but they've got 8 or 10 teams now that do rating. So you're going to pay, okay, you're giving them $150 million per year per se. You're going to give half of that to the ACC for 2 teams that rate? Like, you need more money, but where is it going to come from? The only place it's coming from is out of the bottom half of the conference's pocket. And I just don't see it in them. But it'd have to be a big, turn of faith after all the propaganda and all the things that has been put out from all these different presidents about FSU being a bad guy or whatever. But I'll shut up. Deshawn, go ahead. And Jen, I know y'all have thoughts on this too, but I got a little fired up there.
No, I really don't have any questions as far as this with the case. I will say what he was talking about with the contract. What is this rumor? If y'all heard, because I'm listening to me. I bring up the chat question. Is there 2 separate contracts that are tied into the grant of rights, or is this just a rumor?
So I saw that today. Somebody was trying to allege that the ACC broadcast agreement is different than the ESPN agreement with the ACC as a whole. I haven't seen anything to indicate that that's the case. There is a grant of rights, which is the ACC and FSU agreement through 2036, and there is the ESPN agreement with the ACC that is through 2027.
Okay.
There are tiers within the ESPN broadcast right agreement, and that includes primary channel ESPN ABC, secondary network ACC network, and tertiary CW, whatever other networks that are going to broadcast non-ABC ESPN games. Those are the 3 tiers that are talked about when you talk about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I don't think there's a separate ESPN agreement for the ACC network to be functional through 2036. I have not seen that.
Okay.
It becomes cannibalization. It's only Saturday. You've got Friday night football that's a one-off, but it's only Saturday, 12, 3, 6, or 1, 4, 7 if you're on Eastern time. You've got all these teams in the SEC. Like, there's just not. Where are you going to put these ACC games? And are they worth it if they're going on CW or whatever tertiary thing and you don't have direct TV? As Jen's back with us, any thoughts or any questions on this case before we move forward on anything you've heard here?
No, not really.
Well, just look at what we've seen already this season. 2 ACC versus ACC primetime matchups on ABC. We're 6 weeks into the season. Every other ACC game has included an SEC opponent.
Yep.
ESPN is not bending over backwards for the success of the ACC.
No. It's bad business for them. To be honest, it truly is. If we're just talking money and dollars and cents in business, it truly is bad business for them, and they know it. They just contractually right now are still tied to the hip with the ACC.
Yep, I agree, Jen.
That is the only path. Like that's the one path I see. If they could, work together and do some kind of different transfer or different percentage of monies to the top teams and reduce it to 2030. But just putting my head in or putting myself in ESPN shoes, I just don't see the value because it's just going higher and higher. You're going to have all these automatic playoff spots, and as you just said, like they've shown it. Even ESPN, the Clemson Florida State game, I thought was going to be on ABC. It was supposed to be one of the only ones. Ended up being on ESPN. So, and the bottom of the conference, they're damn sure not. Boston College, they're going to live off that $4.4 million they did against us in that second game for the rest of the year. But if Florida State's not there, what is Boston College's numbers at the end of the year? They won't even rank like that when they play a Clemson or a Miami. That's a thing. That's a sticking game with Florida State fans.
Like Boston College fans don't even watch. What are you talking about? People in Boston don't watch Boston College. Seriously, I don't give a shit. They care about the Patriots. Like that's it.
That's definitely pro football up north, and that's it. They talk about the SEC. It's just Southeastern football is big time money, and a lot of these, the Pac-12, the Big 12, they're finding out the hard way, and the ACC is finding out the hard way by not treating the people that carry the load, whether they're winning or not. Money is eyeballs. That's all there is to it. But our guy Tiny Hat comes through with a $4.99 super chat. All we need is $1 from 12 million fans to buy out these assistant coaches and hire me an OC. I'll worry about this lawsuit later. Yeah, that's a good transition. We've been promising doing the same rundown on the defensive side of the ball that we did on the offensive side of the ball. And that's one thing I will say. I 100% believe that as opposed to 2017, when Jimbo didn't get the money he wanted to go get his guys, he didn't get everything he wanted, and he just laid down. I think this was just more, he was too loyal. We've all talked about it. Should have been changes earlier. But now with Mike Alford in place, I'm not quite on the administrative stuff that y'all got onto when y'all was on the rant in the middle of the show. But I will say, if you don't make those changes, if there aren't 4 or 5 changes, if we don't, get to, okay, we need to move back to the original, Saban blueprint or whatever, go look at the basics and get things right. Yeah, then I'll be right there with you on that. But currently, I have 100% faith in Michael Alford and Mike Norvell to get it right and show the ability to build a program. We're not going to find out if this is fixed until, 27 or 28 when we're reloading again after building up, because the youth is there. But what's the solution on defense? To me, I think Odell, I love you. I wish somehow they could get him to be a analyst. Now that analysts can coach on the field and be such a big part of the program as Ernie Sims is. But I think, and James said this first, but it was exactly what I was thinking. It was hilarious when he said it. You need a guy that comes in and just coaches the whole D line, and he has to be the man, a badass recruiter. Okay, that allows you to keep Pat's coaching special teams, and he can help out with defensive end. Linebacker, that's a foregone conclusion. It's got to go.
Odell has earned the right to coach as long as he wants, just like Bobby did. but you got to whisper in his ear when it's time for him to go. And it's time for him to go. We're getting negatively recruited on his age. We're getting negatively recruited by his, this is his last year. This is his last year. This is his last year.
Yeah.
We're not going to get the young guys. He's not connecting. He's not up at 11 o'clock at night playing college football, EA Sports with the recruits when they're sophomores.
Yeah.
And if you can't connect in that regard, it's time to move on.
Yeah. What's the phrase? You be the hero and you stay long enough to become the villain. Basically, that's the situation. It happened with Bobby, and we're seeing it with Odell. I won't say nothing nasty or spit any visceral, but it's time, and I think for the better of the program, I think he should reevaluate at the end of the season. Maybe I need to step aside, take on, like you said, George, some kind of ambassador role in the background, and let some new blood come in and take that role. Just for the sake of, okay, let's move forward. My time here is done.
Speaking of my time here is done. I got to run. Okay. I got some family business to take care of.
Good night.
Y'all be good.
Right. We didn't get you to plug anything again. You got to start me, man.
Good.
If there's anything you want to let the people know, make sure to plug it before you get out of here.
Just follow us on Twitter. We're a great follow. Go follow us on
X.
See y'all.
Bro. Anytime.
Bye.
The one and only. KP, again, Tiny Hat comes through with a $9.99 super chat. 4.4 million can get me 3 new position coaches and 1 speed pass rush. Oh, no. Let me restart this. 4.4 million can get me 3 new position coaches and 1 speed pass and a candy apple of Disney. This place must know I'm an FSU fan. Pure robbery. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I saw something about the I think the season pass was like $3,000 or something insane. I was like, my goodness. That's one of those things. I'm way away. I'm a good 8 hours away from Orlando. So that's kids around there go once or twice in their childhood. I couldn't imagine living close enough to Disney World where your kid can look in you in the eyes and be like, yeah, this is a legitimate trip we could make. Like every birthday. Yeah, that bill has to be tough for sure.
Yes.
Defensive coaches, I think everybody hit the nail on the head. And the thing is, like I've said it before, maybe Odell could squeeze a couple more years out if you had that young whippersnapper next to him that was handling the recruiting, but that's just not Pap, and it never will be. It's time to make that move. We're not even going to discuss linebacker. It's not worth doing it. We've talked about it so much on this channel. Fuller is the last conversation. A lot of people seem to think he should go. I don't. It's so hard for me when you watch this film, and like I know that I'm not anywhere near the level of coach or analyst as a lot of other people in this profession. But like you don't get to 3rd and 18 out of nothing. And then even on those plays that get given up, you see the plays to be made, and it's guys closing their eyes and whatever, the moment not being too big. So I would like your guys' thoughts on that before we start wrapping up and getting out of here.
All right. For me with Fuller, I'm kind of in the middle as far as what I don't like about it's his schematics. It's bend but don't break. 20 to the 20. You kind of tighten up in the red zone. I would like to see a little bit more creativity. I think a lot of things that were said like last year when the players who were experienced have the ability to make a fire call, basically blitz. But when you have inexperienced players, makes it look like, okay, the defense is hampered because there's no experience to make these exotic calls. It at times the defense seems a little predictable and too dependent upon certain personnel. I mean, every team you got to have Jimmys and Joes, but I don't think he draws it up all the time. And and there's a balance to it. The players have to execute. I think we could do better. But like we said, we're not going to talk about the linebacker, but there's a particular alumni that is a linebacker and has DC experience. There's another name. I'll just throw names out there. I'll throw one. Jim Leonard. That's another name I would like to see. If you like what you see in Denver with the Broncos, he's playing a part in that. And he's on that staff and with what they're doing on defense. He's not the sole defensive coordinator, but he's there. And he's an experienced DC. It was somebody I think that was rumored once before Fuller. That's another name.
With Taggart.
Yeah, with Taggart, along with as we know, Guidry. We know all the names that's been thrown out there. That's one. Just to go with defense. I'm not gonna bash Fuller. I'm not gonna say he needs to be fired and all of that stuff, but there needs to be a reevaluation even in his schematics and how he runs his defense. I mean, we do seem predictable.
Yeah,
He's
I think
ultimately
oh,
responsible.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. That's my fault.
I was just gonna say, I think my issue would be, yes, Jim Leonard was at Wisconsin. His last year at Wisconsin went absolutely down the toilet. But that's neither here nor there. But I think, for me, with Adam Fuller, last year we saw him go in the locker room, make adjustments, right? What do we see this year?
No,
He's trotting out the same bullshit that we've seen in the first 2 quarters. That's what we're seeing. And it's garbage and it's bad. He's making 0 adjustments at halftime. If he is, explain it to me and tell me what I'm seeing, because he's not. He's not making adjustments at halftime. And is that because he doesn't want to, or is that because he doesn't think he can?
So I think
Y'all tell me.
I think Deshawn was pretty much hit it on it. I think he has made adjustments and started moving defensive lines around and doing different things in the second half of games. And we're wondering why we don't start out with that early and often.
Exactly.
And there are certain things you get into, like when you're getting mashed by the run, how do you end up getting caught in man coverage with just 4 down linemen, and Clemson has, 7 guys inside the box and Moffa runs for 80 yards? Because that, like, after 17-0, that's what I was planning to get into at the beginning when I, hope for the youth. After 17-0, like, Brock wasn't ready. He still looked better out there. There was problems. But after 17-0, you saw fire, and you got within 10 points at the start of that fourth quarter. And to Jen's point about inconsistency and liking to see adjustments, how do you end up in that play where he gashes you for 80 yards and, like, it's like there was nobody there. Like, you got to do better than that to help your guys. But at the same time, it's Jimmy's and Joe's more than anything else. And, it's on the scale of things. Again, we could freaking bitch for 18 hours and do the show.
But I don't think our players are any worse than Clemson's. I think you have players that are pretty comparable.
There's talent on the team, and there's those comparable players on the team. It's something that I'll ask, and I'm going to ask you this question because I've thought about it, and it's nothing that is sold or evidence. But remember before Randy Shannon took on the co-DC role and how we looked inconsistent defensively. How much of it over the last 2 seasons was 2 set of eyes instead of 1 set of eyes? Because we don't know exactly how dialed in Randy is at this point. You don't even see him on practice video anymore, So we don't know exactly what everybody's been dumping on him. So how much of a role did he play in his defensive coordinator experience in working with Fuller in certain instances? And I'm not trying to make any rumors or anything, but I'm just asking that question because they both did, being a co-DC, was it just title or did he actually have an involved role with game plan?
I personally think you just got Bethune in here and those guys played. I think you just had 2 NFL linebackers last year. I don't know how much of that, but there was a lot of that. I made those comments, like all of a sudden getting him. I think what we had before Shannon, the issue was so bad that when Shannon got here, we got a level of coaching and got some guys in here coached up. But I don't know. That's a good question. I just don't know the answer to it. And that's been my question as far as Alex Atkins missing the first 3 games and how they were using Toafili. And when he got back, all of a sudden, Toafili had his most carries in 2 games, but then they went away from it. It's like, so I think against Duke, he's had success. And we'll see some changes on that. But yeah, what do you think, Jim?
I think if you lose to Duke, I don't have the words. If you lose to Duke, I don't, y'all, I can't even explain how awful that will be. It will be awful for recruiting. It'll be awful for fundraising. It'll be awful for hope. It'll be awful for anything. I don't care who you trot out there. I don't care if you have to get a girl soccer player to come play quarterback for you. You better beat Duke. I don't give a shit. You better do it, and you better do it nicely, okay? That's the only thing that's going to get this fan base back on board. Honestly, you lose to Duke, and I don't know what to tell you. Florida State fans have never been 1-6. We're 1-5 now. We're going to be 1-6 if you lose to Duke. Forget it. Forget this shit. Y'all want to talk about firing Mike Norvell, firing this? If you think they lose to Duke for the first time ever and there won't be fans rioting, I can't help you.
I don't know how we got there, but I totally agree. So take it as a warning, guys. We better beat Duke. And I'm feeling pretty good. We'll get into
I
the.
thought you just asked me about Duke. I'm sorry. I thought you
No,
did.
he asked you a question about I can't even remember what it was about Randy Shannon. I made a comment about Duke, but yeah, no, I love it. I just
Randy Shannon. Well, he's gone. I mean, let's be for real. Like that's over. They're getting rid of Randy. Let's be for real.
no doubt, and I don't. Whatever he provides in the coaching realm, what he left us in recruiting and the inability to, get these younger guys. There was a failure in the first game, and I think that's kind of why you haven't seen him or whatever.
Yes.
Whatever that awkward shit was with Adam Fuller talking about, we couldn't get Juice into the game for some reason.
Yeah.
Like he didn't get handed a sheet of the notebook or something, or had read the wrong game plan. Like, what the hell was all that about? Because he played like 15 snaps on special teams, and then immediately looked like our best linebacker when they got him in the game.
Yes.
So yeah, not to pile on the guy, but I agree. And to tag on to the next point about Duke, look forward to. We'll start previewing that on Sunday, and looking forward to coming up with some ideas of what they can do. I think Deshawn mentioned it. Pull the ball, Brock Glenn. I think we're going to have something for Duke. I truly do believe that. But yeah, if you lose that, as much as I hate it, I'm going to have to sit here and just melt and listen to it, and I'm going to have to join it. I'm not going to be able to pull off good cop if we lose to Duke. So we'll just burn it all down. That's how it is. These guys, like, you got to understand when you see me up here and I'm making all these faces. I love Jen. I love Deshawn. I love Doug. And I do not blame them one bit for, going off. And I know it's great stuff. Have a blast with it. But as an FSU fan and everything, I'm just sitting here dying inside because I have to bite my lip because I can't respond because it's true. Like, it's all true.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That's the situation, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. And my guy Tiny Hat here, I mean, at least he's funding the channel for me. He already hosts the show for me. So maybe I'll be able to get off the ramen noodle diet this week just because Tiny Hat's so fired up. I don't have a call in line, but I think you got the link. If you want to jump up, you paid for the right. You're always welcome there. He says, let us lose to Duke after a bye. I'm using shoebox money to post bail because I'm putting hands on somebody on that staff.
Yeah.
Oh man, we gotta get it filmed if that does happen.
Hey.
Who knows? Maybe we can get you to really blow up Tiny Hat. We'll get you set up with your own channel. We'll get you viral.
I'll add one more thing, George, that you mentioned, talking about just going back to the offense for a quick second with Atkins and the run game coordinator. That would be, in particular, that particular OC, Brennan Marion, if he were to come to FSU, that would be something that they would have to figure out because of the particular system. Typically OC is going to want to bring one or two guys that familiar with their system to help install and teaching it and things like that. So it would be interesting to see how that would work. Would Alex have to just step back and take a sole position role as opposed to being the coordinator in that role?
So I think you hit the nail on the head when you brought up the ties to Norvell's because it's all similar, and he created that offense out of it. I think the idea is he would be the offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator, and then whether you call it assistant or head coach, assistant offensive coordinator, co-OC, he would be, the idea would be Alex Atkins would be O-line and run game coordinator. But I absolutely understand with what you're saying. Like, you got to have your guys in, and that's another part. We didn't get to this earlier. I think, and that has to do with Thompson. Like, he's hard for Thompson to stay because that's probably the position where, Brennan could bring in an offense or a tight end coach who can help coach offensive line and bridge the gap or whatever the case may be. And make no mistake, like me saying all this about Alex Atkins, like I'm just dealing with the reality, guys. We can complain, this and that. The reality is the best offensive line class we've had together since 2011 is currently committed, and getting them on campus is a priority, whether Atkins has to take a lesser role or be on, a 1 year make it break it contract, whatever the case may be. That's just the reality of what it is. But yeah, all these things are great questions. But yeah, I think they could make that work. But tight end, running back, it's like both Thompson and Yak, like I like them. I don't think they necessarily have to go, but it's one of those things where it's a cutthroat business and it's time to make cutthroat decisions. You know, if you
Yeah,
got to make the
that's
move,
true.
you got to make the damn move. So
Yeah.
I'm with it,
So
whatever they got to do.
one thing without interrupting any of you, Mike is not going to fire Alex Atkins this year, no matter how much I want it to happen or how much any of us want it to happen. He is too loyal. Alex is on what he's got a show cause, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
he does show cause. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mike is not going to fire a guy who's recruiting well for him, who's showing all the things, and keep him jobless. It's just not going to happen. So I don't.
Ooh, that is a great point.
Yeah, like it's just not going to happen. So we've got to like, as much as I criticize, you have to come down to a reality point at some point with that. And I think we're looking at Alex Atkins staying on for a year, maybe two. And this is, no matter what anybody thinks, the best recruiting O-line class that we've had in a long time. If you can keep them, great. If you can't, I don't know how it goes. But I don't see Mike Norvell firing him with the show cause, with the recruiting class. There's too much, for that. So that's where I go with that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt anybody.
No,
Mike Norvell is not firing somebody with a show cause. He's not.
Yeah, the only time, and you see me get aggravated and stuff, and we've had our bouts, but the only time I get prissy is when I'm trying to navigate the show to one place. But this part of the conversation, this is what we do. We go back and forth. But yeah, I agree with all that. That was a magnificent point. That hasn't even entered my mind. I didn't understand why they were so heavy on getting it all done in the first year. But now when you look at it, if you try to get a new job, who the hell's going to want to take that on, the show cause and all that, the scholarship production? So now they've got that all the way. It's basically you've got everything done and you can just get back to work for next year. So it provides an opportunity for Alex Atkins, who again is a very young coach. Like him and Mike Norvell can make mistakes. Florida State isn't the place to do it. This is the last time. It's time to really step up. You can't have another one of these drops offs in 3 or 4 years. But we've seen it happen with Brian Kelly to a bit of a lesser extent with, up at Michigan. But they had to make the changes and they got it done. I have 100% faith it'll happen. But yeah, that's where we're at. I think I'm about done. Any thoughts? Anything we haven't talked about?
No, we're good, man. We touched on everything.
Have you let the people know where they can find you on YouTube, my friend?
That's Pro Football Talk, Double D's, Let's Talk Ball podcast. We also have Let's Talk College, Gaming, and be on the lookout for a new podcast that's coming. It'll be Daily Chop. It'll be solely with recruiting and things. So a connection with a lot of my fellas on Twitter. We're going to do a podcast and it'll focus on recruiting a little bit around the Southeast, a little bit of Florida State recruiting, a little bit of everything, conversation, and maybe some interviews with prospects, whether they're going to Florida State, an HBCU, G5. That's what we're just going to get them out there, try to get opportunities for scholarships and things like that.
So are you going to do a new channel together, or this can be on your YouTube channel?
It's going to be it's not going to be on my Double D's channel. It's going to be on another sole YouTube channel, but it's called The Daily Chop.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be at The Daily Chop. Y'all are going to have your own channel separate.
Yes.
Absolutely. That'll be cool, man. Shoot, we'll figure something out. We'll do some simulcast, help y'all get that going. I'd love to see that. Awesome. I tried to, I won't say a name, but there's a couple of different people in that world that I tried everything in the world to kind of help them out and facilitate something like that at one point in time. And it all blew up. So I wish you luck. And I think like that was a big part of our beginnings right here. The actual video podcast launched in August and Jen joined by November. But for the first 6-8 months before that, I was uploading spaces. I was going in and editing the audio out and doing videos and all that. And they were getting, that was the start of this. That's how we got our first, 100 subscribers or whatever. And then finally Jen joined, it blew up. And then we got our guy Deshawn here to really round things off and make conversations easier. So we appreciate everybody that's here. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us. Getting to 3,000, like as somebody who started this a year and a half ago, whatever it was, like when I was sitting here looking at the different channels going on and the abilities, you saw people doubling and tripling over year, but 3,000 is a kind of threshold that is a pretty good amount, and you can really jump off from there. And you guys have got us there. We've had members that have been members for 9 months, people that have been subscribed for over a year. So we love you guys. Also, make sure you follow at Jen Fancy Knoll on Instagram as well, because we're going to get that worked out. We're going to get her stream key and get y'all to where it streams over there as well, because that's a completely different audience that I haven't touched at all. Anything else, Jen, before we move on?
No. The other thing I would say is don't get deflected by what I just said, that he wasn't going to fire, that guy. I think he will get demoted if they can get the UNLV coach. I do. 100%.
Yeah, that's on the table. I think we're all in 100% agreement. I think that's the kind of shiny best case example. I can't tell you how many lies I will tell if they make those changes. If they make those 4 or 5 changes, you bring that dude in from UNLV, yeah, I'll be pretty high on them. And that will give some momentum. You're able to keep Atkins, and I think, my opinion is it'll have to be a co-OC role. I don't think you could completely demote him. I think that, UNLV guy's going to call the plays. Alex Atkins doesn't call the plays now. I think it'll be some kind of co-OC or assistant or run game coordinator. There'll be some kind of platitude as well lopped on it. But what it's going to do is, who knows who else we're going to get. There's going to be some momentum if that move gets made before December 4th. So that would be the ultimate prayer that happens. Or even, I don't know if February 27th or not 27th, February 4th, whenever the actual signing day is, I don't know if that's even a thing anymore. So we're going to find out about that.
Got rid of the letter of intent. So
yeah.
Whatever. The other thing I would say is I do think it's on the table. I don't think it's going to be a co thing because Alex Atkins has no leverage. He's got show causes. I think that I don't see it. If they can get that
he's got leverage. He's got 3, amazing, that's the leverage. He knows it. He walks, they walk, and FSU's fucked hard. It's just a factor of the situation. You can't get around it.
He's not going to walk.
No, I agree. But I just, what has Randy Shannon and these guys that have these co titles now done to earn them? We'll see. Yeah, but that's just a different opinion, and that's why this show is so much fun.
I think it's the difference would be this guy would probably not want to be a co-offensive coordinator with anybody, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Right now, right? No, he's awesome.
But no, the thing is, he's an OC. He has the ability to be the quarterback coach or the wide receiver coach because he was a wide receiver coach at Pitt and Texas. But he's currently at UNLV as the OC play caller and the quarterback coach. Yeah. Yes. And there is some difference in philosophy in the run game that would be like the counters and stuff. They do some of that, but they're more downhill. So there would be a complete philosophy change there, and they're run first and then throw, spread second. It's a lot to it though. Power run game.
That whole throw the quick game and throw to set up the run versus that flip. That's my biggest complaint about all this shit. So I would love to see that.
Yeah. And it requires everybody to be blockers. So you're going to have your backs got to block, whether they're 250 or 210, it's a lot to it, but it's simple. It's actually simpler than what it looks difficult to watch or learn, but it's simple to teach from what he's been talking about.
Fact. Love you guys. This has been a ton of fun. We'll see you guys Sunday. It's all about the Knowles, and let's just hope, man. Let's just hope everything. We see Brock go crazy, hanging out with his Brock out. Hakeem start making big plays. These tight ends keep doing it. All of a sudden, they start handing it to Toafili. They start breaking some plays, and all of a sudden, defenses have to play you completely different, and you get some confidence to have a fun game against Miami. But we won't get ahead of ourselves. It's all about Duke, and we'll get into that, and hopefully, who knows, some more news by the time we get to Sunday. But thanks again to Jen and Deshawn, as always, for putting up with me. Big thanks to Rohan Law for coming through and putting up with me. This is like the 3rd time we've had him on, and the conversations go so great, and he never reminds me. That's just, we got to do a better job of plugging him. When people come on the show, it's all about enriching everybody's thing. Whatever we can do to bring attention to whatever everybody's doing. In Florida State football, that's what it's about. But we're out of here. Go Knowles.
It's easy to abandon fundamentals. Easy to not communicate, not get the call. It's easy for those things to show up. And then you get to look back, and it's opportunity for regret. Everybody knows we're better than what we just put out there on that field. And that all comes